All right. Well, that is final in Lincoln, Nebraska, as Michigan defeats the Nebraska Cornhuskers 30-27 in a game that was highly entertaining. I'll say this. I mean, even if you weren't a fan of either of these teams, I think you were pretty entertained. It was back and forth. Um, Credit to the Michigan running game. They dominated the game. A 75-yard touchdown run by Justice Haynes, a 54-yard touchdown run by Jordan Marshall, a 37-yard touchdown run by Bryce Underwood. They were 286 yards on the ground total. They just dominated Nebraska's rush defense, and that really carried them offensively. Couldn't really get anything through the air. Um, Bryce was a little off on some of his throws, but the receivers also dropped a few passes. I think I stand by my opinion that Bryce Underwood needs a go-to number one receiver. They have a bunch of good receivers, but he doesn't have that all-star stud, at least on this team. But it's good enough to go 3-1. Defensively, oh my. They got after Dylan Raiola. Was it 7 or 8 sacks? That, and they needed to because the secondary was getting torched. I think he had over like 250 yards passing or something like that. 3 touchdown passes. He did throw 1 interception, but they needed every help they could get. I have some thoughts at the end of the half. My one complaint about the coaching. Biff Poggi, he did okay as a coach. He did okay. My one complaint with him at the end of the half, it's like 50, about under a minute to play, around 40 seconds or so. It was 2nd and 19, and Nebraska decides to run because they figure we're just going to go to halftime. If I'm Biff, I'm calling timeouts because they're giving up on the drive. Why not call timeout, try to get the ball back, and maybe get a quick field goal before halftime because Michigan gets the second half kickoff. And I always say when it comes to football, if you win the coin toss, you always want to defer to the second half because you can set yourself up for what I call the double dip. Is when you score at the end of the first half and then you get the ball back preceding the score. Therefore, you get a chance for the double dip. So you get a chance. They were up 7. You have a chance to maybe at least go up 2 scores going into halftime, and then you get the ball back, who knows. But instead, he just allows the clock to run. And Nebraska, 3rd and 14, they run it again, and they're acting like they're going to run the clock out, but it's 4th down, and Matt Rule, credit to him, it was actually a smart play, smart call. He calls timeout with 1 second. And he says, well, heck with it. We'll call timeout with 1 second, and we'll just throw a Hail Mary chance, because it doesn't matter because the half is going to end. And lo and behold, they score a touchdown at the end of the half to tie the game at 17. And, okay, there was bad pass defense. Again, the secondary needs a lot of help. But my issue is the coaching. Like, you have to call timeouts. Because if you call the timeouts, Nebraska is forced to punt. If it's fourth down with like 20 seconds, they're not going to throw a Hail Mary. They're just going to punt. But instead, you allowed Nebraska to control the clock, to manipulate the clock however they see fit, and they took advantage. And so Matt Rule outcoached Biff Poggi there. And there's a reason why Biff is an assistant and not a head coach. Now, I don't know if Sharon Moore would do the same thing. I don't know. But that was my one complaint. Second half starts off with it just seems like the second half always starts with this big run. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. The 75-yard run was at the end of the first half. The 54-yard run starts in the second half. That puts Michigan up 2 scores. And then my other complaint in the second half, and this is not coaching, this is Nebraska gets the ball back and Michigan's up 10 after the 54-yard run by Jordan Marshall. And they hold them to like a 3-and-out, and Nebraska's about to punt. But lo and behold, there's a taunting penalty on Michigan, and yes, he was taunting the Nebraska sidelines. And I'm like, why are you doing that? So instead of 4th and 17, Nebraska gets 15 yards, and it's an automatic first down, and that allows Nebraska to continue the drive, go down the field, and, they kick a field goal, they pull within one. And I feel like Michigan could have put this game away a lot earlier if they just got out of their own way. But overall, those are my two main complaints. The running game was awesome. The offensive line played pretty well. Bryce had time to throw. The receivers had issues catching the ball, and he was off on a few of them. I don't know. I think they need to start recruiting some big-time receivers, like I said. I've already touched upon that. Secondary needs help. But I think, for me, the story of the game is Michigan's pass rush. There's two things. The rush offense dominating, but the pass rush for me was huge because Dylan Raiola, he's also a 5-star quarterback. He was a freshman last year. So he's like 1 year ahead of Bryce Underwood. And he showed he can throw the ball on the run. He threw in different angles. Dylan Raiola, the one thing that creeps me out about him, he tries too hard to be Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he wears number 15. He does a little Patrick Mahomes mannerisms, like whatever that is. His pregame warm-up, is almost similar. And I almost convinced he went to Nebraska because they wear red like the Chiefs. His hairstyle is just like Patrick Mahomes. It's creepy, but he's a good quarterback. He actually, he can throw on the run. He's a danger. I think Nebraska's a few players away from being a good team too. This was a game for both teams. I feel that it was one of those where the rubber meets the road kind of game. Michigan, they played Oklahoma and they lost, and their only wins were against New Mexico and Central Michigan. Nebraska beat Cincinnati and then beat a bunch of nobodies going into this week. So this was a game that both teams were trying to prove who they were. So, and it was a good, entertaining game. It was a close game. At the end of the day, you got two teams that are kind of coming back up, trying to find out who they were. And the game showed. It was a pretty close game all throughout. I mean, you got to give credit where it's due. Dylan Raiola played well. He didn't have a good offensive line, and that kind of hurt him, but he did enough to keep his team in the game. Jacory, I can't remember his last name. The guy who caught the Hail Mary for Nebraska, he was a pretty good receiver too. But Michigan, at the end of the day, they did what it took to win. And they go to 3-1, and they have the bye week. So their next game is 2 weeks from now at home against Wisconsin. Wisconsin does not look good this year. I'm going to straight up tell you, they got blown out by Maryland, so that could be a pretty easy win. But you never know. It's football. So they can rest up. Sharon Moore comes back from his suspension. They go to 3-1, and they have a favorable schedule. They don't really play anyone tough until Ohio State. Well, they do play at USC. And Michigan State always gives them trouble, so you never know. But my game ball, it's kind of a long video. I have a lot of thoughts. This was a fun game. My game ball is just it's a game ball to a group effort. I think the key to the game was the pass rush on Dylan Raiola. They sacked him 8 times. I know Barham got a sack. Penny got a sack. Eight. I mean, there wasn't one guy. It was a group effort. 8 different guys got a sack on him. So I'm going to give it to the front seven of Michigan defensive pass rush. They knew. I mean, the secondary had issues covering receivers, so those those sacks came huge at key times. So my game ball goes to them. Also, honorable mention to the running game overall. They had 3 guys with rushes of over 35 yards, which I think they said is the first team in college football this year to do that. I don't know if it's history or not. I have to look. There's a lot of college football. It might be this year, but there was a lot of home run hitting runs. Like I said, the 75-yard run by Justice Haynes, a 54-yard run by Jordan Marshall, and then 37-yard run by Bryce Underwood. And for me, it was the pass rush that controlled this game, and that's what won them the game. So that's going to do it for me. This is a really long video. I apologize, but this was a fun game. My next video will be Monday night. The Lions are at the Baltimore Ravens. That should be a fun game. And unfortunately, I'll be at work for that, so I'll figure something out for a video for that one. But until then, go Blue, go Lions, go Pistons, go Red Wings, and please go Tigers. They lost again today to the Braves. Don't blow this. You've led the AL Central all year, and you're losing again. You lost again to the Braves today. Come on, you got to step it up. But until then, stay safe out there.